So this is what we're commemorating today. It's been a year since 21 young people died at the Enyobeni Tavern. And as they seek answers, we're asking you on Twitter, are the parents correct to demand a more credible cause of death report? Get in touch with us on Twitter, @theagenda_SABC. Do you think that the parents of the 21 young people who died at the Enyobeni Tavern have been given justice? Give us a call as well. Give us a call on 011-714-0661 or 0662. Yeah, a year since the death of 21 young people at the Enyobeni Tavern Tragedy. The community will hold a memorial service. This is in remembrance of the teenagers. But let's discuss this. And for that, we're joined in studio by Mr. Lucky Ntimane of the National Liquor Traders Council. Mr. Ntimane, a good morning to you and welcome to the agenda.
Thank you for the opportunity and good morning.
This is a difficult conversation to have, because 21 teenagers died on this day a year ago. I mean, as the National Liquor Traders Organization and Council, at this point, when we observe this day, what's the first thing that comes to mind as people who speak directly to tavern owners in the country?
It is really a sad day to remember. I remember this as if it happened yesterday, where we got a call that at that point, it was not 21, I think it was about 16 or 17. Youngsters had lost their lives. And as the day progressed, we found out that indeed it was 21 teenagers that lost their lives on that fateful day. And we have always contended that we should never have found ourselves in a situation where we mention a teenager in a tavern in the same sentence. But as it were, it happened. And I can feel for the families that are still going through this pain because there hasn't been any closure. We've seen 3 different reports that do not correlate with each other. And that is not going to be something that can really bring closure to those families that still seek the answers of what really happened to their loved ones. It is a very difficult moment, but also, and we said this during the funeral, that liquor traders should take full responsibility of what happened there. Those teenagers should not have been allowed, in the first instance, to be in that tavern. And we know, and we're not going to hide on this, that there are taverns, as I'm sitting here, that continue to sell alcohol to those that are under the age of 18. And we've seen research that was done by our sister organization, Awe.org, that establishes that between children between the age of 13 and 14 are experimenting in alcohol. So this is something that is ongoing, and it needs all of us, to tackle this issue, because it means we are orientating our kids that fun is to be had only when alcohol is involved.
I mean, that's a societal issue, and that's a bigger discussion, right? But you're talking about teenagers of 13 and 14 that are experimenting with alcohol. That's going to be something that you see really in many parts of the world. But it seems that we have an issue where compliance is concerned with our liquor outlets, particularly in our more vulnerable community. I mean, what do we do about that? What are we not getting right in ensuring that taverns are compliant, that they don't sell to underage teenagers, that they are operating within the legal hours?
So we have strong liquor laws. So in the country, because we have 9 provinces, we have 9 different liquor laws, but our laws are extremely strong. I think what we need is the policing of those laws, as the compliance from the side of liquor traders, which is lacking, as it were. But I think that we can do more in terms of self-regulation as liquor traders, where we are able to abide by the license regulation that govern how we sell our liquor. I mean, for example, that taverns open at 10 and they close at 10 and at 2 a.m. But is it really necessary that you close your tavern at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, for example? So we need to be able to take into cognizance the fact that we operate from communities. I mean, you cannot separate a tavern and a community because we are part of the same ecosystem. So tavern owners need to take into confidence the community that they operate in, to say, we're not going to close at 2 a.m. because we need to understand that, there are kids that are going to school, that they have to wake up early in the morning. We need to also, feel for our neighbors that we cannot play music up to the wee hours of the morning. But we know that, there are some liquor traders that are putting the profits ahead of, the importance of having a community that is able to function properly. And it's not the right thing to have a conversation where we have 39,000 taverns, and if all of them are not, doing things in the right way, it means then we cannot have taverns to talk about in the near future. So taverns need to take full responsibility that in the way they operate, they must know that it affects the communities that they operate in. There are no taverns in the suburbs. Taverns reside in communities, but taverns need to be able to trade and operate in a way that best supports the community ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly talk a lot about regulation. I mean, one of the things that came up last year as a big part of the conversation when these 21 young people died was the conversation starting again around the Liquor Amendment Bill, that one of its amendments really was going to be around amending the legal age of people that are able to buy alcohol, moving it up to the age of 21. I reached out to the Department of Trade and Industry, and they said to me they're still reviewing the bill internally and are not able to give updates to the public at this stage, unable to come and speak to us on the show. So is the issue that there is a lack of consequence management, right? Where you're talking about these 39,000 liquor outlets where there is a lack of compliance, is the issue that there's a lack of consequence management? And what do we do then from a regulatory point of view to tighten that?
I think maybe to respond to the Liquor Amendment Bill, especially the moving the legal drinking age from 18 to 21, what you're all going to do is that you are going to now increase the catchment area of people that are non-compliant. So now you're going to have people moving from 18 to 21. So many people that were compliant all of a sudden now have to move into a non-compliant space. So people that can sign illegal contracts in South Africa now all of a sudden cannot buy alcohol. People that are in varsity, first, second year, can study on their own, but they cannot buy alcohol. So it's a short-sighted approach, something that cannot work. It's not based on research. I think it's an emotional reaction by government, to want to address an issue that they've avoided to deal with in a very long time. We know that the issue of alcohol abuse in a country is a serious matter. But I think what we have done, we've managed to sweep it under the carpet. So what COVID-19 did, it then highlighted the problems that we face as a country in terms of irresponsible usage of alcohol. And we need to come together, civil society, government, and all NGOs that seek to address this type of issues. We need to come together and seek a solution that will address this matter once and for all. Yeah. As a country, we do not have a national strategy to deal with alcohol abuse. And we stand ready as the National Liquor Traders to assist government in ensuring that we draft such a strategy that will ensure that we deal with the matter of alcohol abuse in the country once and for all.
Yeah, let's take a look at some of the tweets that have come in, because on our Twitter page, @theagenda_SABC, we're asking you if you feel that the parents of the 21 young people who died in the Enyobeni Tavern tragedy have gotten justice, right? Are the parents correct to demand a more credible cause of death report? You remember that they were told that their children died of asphyxiation, even though many of them were underage and being sold alcohol at that tavern in Enyobeni. Let's see the tweets that have already come in. July says, the owner must explain. He's the one knowing all the corners of the Enyobeni Tavern. Begsin Mabele says, Enyobeni, yes, they're correct to demand answers, but they as well must answer on why they didn't stop their underage kids from attending this event. It's midnight and your underage kid is not at home. What you do as a parent? What did you do as a parent? Both parties need to answer. We cannot always open one eye. Moing says, I think they're correct, but they must also take responsibility for the death of their children. As parents, how do you sleep while a 13-year-old child is not in their house? I think those parents should have been charged too for negligence of their children. We're talking about families that are in mourning. Let's remember that. Mourning all, I think the parents deserve to know the real cause of their children's death. So they must find closure and move on, although the children were not supposed to be there in the first place. Well, we continue our discussion with Lucky Ntimane of the National Liquor Traders Council. This is where it gets difficult, because you see the tweets putting a lot of the responsibility even on the parents. But here's the reality, Lucky. The 39,000 taverns that you're talking about are in our communities. They're part of our communities. For the most part, they're actually economic hubs of a lot of our poorer communities. I mean, where's the I suppose, the collaboration on the societal changes that we need to see in our vulnerable communities?
So we often say that it takes a village to raise a child. So something went wrong in Enyobeni, where the uncles, the fathers, the mothers who are tavern owners failed to play their part in the ecosystem of a village in raising the child. And we accept that. If they had taken that responsibility of being elders in a village, this would not have happened. Profits were put ahead of the livelihoods, of the lives of the people in Enyobeni. And like we've said, this is not only restricted to Enyobeni. Just yesterday in East London, the police had to battle over 700 teenagers that were flocking to the beach drinking. As I'm talking to you, advertisements are going up on social media of pens down parties, especially in the Eastern Cape. So something is definitely happening there. And yes, maybe it might be convenient to put the blame squarely on parents, but the community, the liquor traders, also ought to take this responsibility.
Yeah. Is there something to be said about advertising? Because you touch on it, right? Here's the reality. If you drive around Sandton, you're not likely to see a big billboard of a beer in the middle of the road. But if you drive into Soweto, it's evident, the advertising of alcohol to our poorer communities. Is that something that we need to be having an upfront discussion about?
I think all the conversations that could be had in order to assist in dealing with the issue of responsible usage of alcohol need to be had. We cannot hide. We cannot try to talk these type of matters because they are very important and they affect black people in the country. The alcohol abuse, even though it does not have a color, but because the majority of South Africans are blacks, and then it seeks to, almost affect those people that are vulnerable. We know the issue of poverty, but somehow, even going to poorer areas in the country, people still have access to alcohol. So we need to be able to address also the underlying factors of why people are drinking alcohol. So we shouldn't just maybe focus on alcohol as a problem, but also what are the contributing factors to people drinking alcohol the way they do in the country.
What should happen to the owners of Enyobeni? I mean, you have members that operate businesses like the one at Enyobeni. So what should happen to them?
We are on record as saying that what happened in Enyobeni was a massacre. Someone did something to cause death to those kids. And we understand that, the owners of Enyobeni are going trial, but that has to do with the license regulations. But someone needs to account as to why those kids died. And we are on record as saying those kids were murdered, those kids were killed. And those parents deserve an answer as to what happened.
Yeah. All right, let's leave it there. Mr. Ntimane, we really do appreciate your time. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Lucky Ntimane there of the National Liquor Traders Council.